I cut off my brother after he borrowed money and bought luxury items instead of paying rent. So, a little context first. I, 29F, have one sibling, my younger brother, 24M. Growing up, I was always kind of the responsible one in the family, while my brother was let's call it the wild card. I don't mean he's a bad person. He's funny, charming, and honestly, one of those people everyone gravitates toward because he's got that sort of carefree, confident energy. But that same energy also meant he was constantly getting into trouble, whether it was skipping classes, maxing out his allowance on dumb stuff, or forgetting to pay people back. Meanwhile, I've always been the opposite. I was the kid who made color-coded homework schedules, worked part-time jobs as soon as I could, and stressed myself sick about money even when I had nothing to spend it on. My parents definitely noticed the difference between us, and even though they never said it outright, it felt like I was the one expected to have everything under control. My brother? He was the free spirit, the family joker, the baby, the one we all made excuses for. This dynamic carried over into adulthood in a way that's honestly exhausting. I went to college, got a job, and while I'm not rolling in money, I budget carefully and I try to live within my means. My brother, well, let's just say budgeting has never been his strong suit. He's always been into expensive sneakers, tech gadgets, and going out to eat when he can't really afford it. He bounces between jobs. Sometimes it's barista, sometimes it's delivery, sometimes it's random gig work. He'll make money, but spend it just as fast. And because of that, guess who's been the unofficial emergency fund of the family? Yep, me. Whenever he falls short on rent, or his car breaks down, or he suddenly needs money to fix some problem that apparently came out of nowhere, I'm the one he calls. I wish I could say I've always told him no, but I haven't. I've bailed him out more times than I can even count because I care about him and because deep down, I guess I always feel like, well, if I don't help, who will? But it's taken a toll. Each time I lend him money, there's a promise to pay it back that never actually happens. Each time he swears it's the last time and that he's really learning from this. And each time I try to believe him, partly because I want to, and partly because it's easier than fighting with him or disappointing my parents, who usually guilt me into helping family. So that's the backdrop. I love my brother, I really do, but he's always been financially reckless, and I've always been the one picking up the pieces. And if I'm being honest, I've started to feel resentful about it. Like, why do I have to be punished for being responsible while he gets to make mistake after mistake and have people cushion the fall for him? This was all bubbling under the surface already, and then came the incident that honestly just broke something in me. So this all went down a couple of months ago. At the time, things were actually going okay for me financially. Not amazing, not let's book a trip to Europe okay, but steady enough. I had my rent, bills, and savings covered, with just a little wiggle room for fun stuff like going out with friends. I was finally starting to feel like I had some stability, which honestly it felt really good because I've spent so much of my adult life worrying about scraping by. Then I got the call. My brother rings me up one evening, and from the tone of his voice, I already knew it was going to be one of those conversations. You know, the ones where he drags it out, talks in circles, tries to act like everything's fine until finally admitting that it's not. He tells me he's short on rent, like really short. His landlord apparently gave him a warning that if he didn't pay up, he was at risk of being kicked out. He said he had some unexpected expenses and he just needed a little help this one time. Now, here's the thing. I've heard the "just this one time" line from him at least a dozen times. I think at this point I could probably recite his script word for word.
But he's good at making it sound urgent and desperate enough that you can't help but feel guilty if you say no. He talked about how stressed he was, how he was trying to be responsible this time, how he had some new work lined up that would definitely cover next month. He even threw in how embarrassed he felt asking me, like he hated himself for needing help again. And I'm not gonna lie, I caved. Partly because he's my brother, partly because I didn't want to picture him losing his apartment and maybe ending up on a friend's couch, or worse. And partly because I've always had this stupid savior instinct with him. Like, I feel like if I don't step in, everything will fall apart. So I told him, okay. I transferred him the money, a not small amount, the kind of money that actually does make a dent in my budget. It wasn't going to bankrupt me, but it meant tightening my belt for the next month, canceling plans, being extra careful with groceries, stuff like that. I told myself it was worth it, though, because it was family and because he said he was learning from his mistakes. And when I hit that send button on the money transfer, I remember feeling this mix of emotions. Relief, because I thought I was helping him avoid disaster. Frustration, because I knew I was enabling him again. And this tiny shred of hope that maybe this time it would be different. At first, after I sent him the money, I honestly tried not to think about it so much. I told myself, okay, he's going to use this for rent, the crisis is averted, and we can all just move forward. I even felt a little proud of myself for being the bigger person again. Like, yeah, it stung to lose that money, but at least I was helping him keep a roof over his head. But then, not even a week later, I got blindsided. I was scrolling through Instagram one night, classic doom scroll before bed, and I see my brother's story pop up. And what do I see? Him showing off a brand new pair of designer sneakers. Not just regular sneakers either, the kind that cost hundreds of dollars, the kind he's drooled over before but never been able to afford. He had them right there in the camera, unboxing them, grinning like a little kid at Christmas.
At first, I thought, no way. Maybe someone gifted them to him. Maybe he saved up and bought them before the rent crisis. I didn't want to believe what my gut was already screaming. But then came the next story. A fancy dinner out with friends, cocktails, appetizers, plates of food that looked like they came straight out of the trendy restaurant downtown. Then another post the next day, this time showing off a new smartwatch. And he captioned it something like, "Finally treated myself," smiley face with sunglasses, #blessed. I cannot even describe the pit that formed in my stomach. It was this mix of nausea and rage. I just kept staring at the screen like, are you kidding me? I just gave you money because you said you couldn't afford rent, and instead you're out here living like you won the lottery? I tried to rationalize it for about 2 seconds. Maybe he used his own money for this stuff and mine really went to rent. Maybe he budgeted differently. But deep down I knew. My brother has never had a secret stash of cash lying around. If he suddenly has money for sneakers and a smartwatch, it's because he decided my money wasn't for rent, it was for splurging. I remember just sitting there on my bed, phone in hand, feeling my face get hot. I felt played, like I'd been conned, straight up. And the worst part was how casual he was about it. Like, no shame, no awareness that I might see these posts and connect the dots. The betrayal cut deeper than I expected. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about trust. I had sacrificed my own comfort to help him in what I thought was a desperate situation, and instead of even a shred of gratitude, he basically laughed in my face by flaunting how he spent it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation we had before I sent him the money, his voice all shaky and desperate, talking about how close he was to losing his apartment, how he'd do better this time. And then I'd see the image of those sneakers flashing in my mind like neon lights, mocking me. It was one of those moments where something inside me just snapped. I tried for maybe 24 hours to just swallow it,
to say nothing, to let it go because I hate drama and because part of me was scared of the fight that I knew would come. But the more I sat with it, the more it festered. Every time I thought about tightening my own budget that month, skipping coffee runs, telling my friends I couldn't do dinner out, I saw his Instagram posts again in my head. It felt like I was being slapped in the face over and over. So I called him. The second he picked up, I didn't even bother with small talk. I just asked straight out, did you use the money I gave you for rent, or did you spend it on shoes and dinner and a damn smartwatch? There was this long pause, and then he laughed, and said something like, relax, I'll cover rent. I just needed to treat myself first. You don't get it. I've been stressed out. I swear my blood pressure spiked 50 points in that moment. The audacity! He said it so casually, like I was some uptight mom scolding him for buying candy before dinner. I asked him point blank, do you understand that I sacrificed for that money? That I literally skipped things I wanted and needed so you wouldn't lose your apartment and you decided sneakers were more important than rent? And he got defensive. He started throwing excuses left and right, how he was just trying to stay sane, how everyone deserves a little treat, how I shouldn't police how I spend my money. I reminded him it wasn't his money, it was mine, given under the promise that it was for rent. And you know what he said? He said, you act like you're my bank. Chill, you always overreact. That was the tipping point. I told him I was done. No more bailouts, no more just this one time. If he couldn't respect me enough to use the money for the reason he begged for it, then he didn't get to ask me for help ever again. He tried to interrupt me, but I kept talking. I told him he had crossed a line, that I felt used, and that I wasn't going to be his safety net anymore. He got angry then. Started accusing me of abandoning him, of being selfish because I make more money than him. He even tried to guilt trip me by saying, you'd rather see your brother homeless than help him out. That one stung, because he knows damn well that thought has always been the hook that reels me in. But this time something in me hardened. I said, no, I'd rather see you face the consequences of your own actions than keep enabling you to screw me over. We ended the call yelling at each other. He hung up on me. I just sat there shaking, half from adrenaline, half from hurt. I had never spoken to him like that before, and I honestly felt like I was going to cry. That was the night I decided to cut him off. Financially, and honestly, emotionally too. I unfollowed him on Instagram because I couldn't stand seeing his posts. I told myself if he wanted to reach out, it wouldn't be about money. And if it was, I wouldn't answer. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a weird mixture of relief and heartbreak. Relief that I had finally drawn a line. Heartbreak that it had come to this with my own brother.
I tried to explain what happened, that he lied to me about rent, that he literally blew the money on luxury crap. And you know what she said? Well, he made a mistake, but at least he's safe. Isn't that what matters? I could feel my blood boiling. It felt like the story of my whole life, him being coddled, me being the one expected to absorb the consequences. I told her flat out that I wasn't doing it anymore, that he had crossed a line. She sighed like I was being dramatic and said, "You've always been so hard on him." That was when I realized I wasn't just fighting him, I was fighting my whole family dynamic. Meanwhile, my brother kept posting like nothing happened. More nights out, more new stuff. One time, I swear I saw him in a photo with yet another pair of sneakers. And I'm sitting there looking at my budget spreadsheet, deciding if I can afford to replace my worn-out work shoes. And the unfairness of it all just crushed me. And yet, here's the kicker. I still felt guilty. I'd lie awake at night wondering if maybe I had gone too far, if maybe I was being heartless. My brain would ping-pong between anger and shame. One moment I'd think, nope, I did the right thing, I had to cut him off. The next moment I'd think, but what if he really does lose his apartment now? What if he really has no one else to turn to? Friends I vented to were firmly on my side. Every single one of them said, "You're not overreacting, he's taking advantage of you." But family family kept saying I should be the bigger person. And that phrase makes me want to throw something. Why is it always me who has to be bigger? Why can't he just be decent? So now we barely talk. If we do, it's short, cold, surface level. He hasn't directly asked me for money again, yet, but I can feel the tension. My mom keeps hinting that I should forgive him, but I honestly don't even know what that would look like. The truth is, I still love him. He's my brother, and there are good memories mixed in with all this resentment. But something broke in me that night when I saw those Instagram posts. Something about our relationship shifted in a way that I don't know if it can shift back. So that's where things stand right now. I cut my brother off. I told him no more bailouts, no more just this once. I haven't sent him a single dollar since that fight, and honestly, I don't plan to. But it's complicated. Part of me feels lighter for finally drawing the line, like I finally stood up for myself after years of being his safety net. I don't feel that constant dread anymore, waiting for the next emergency call. But the other part of me, the guilt eats at me. I wonder if I'm being too harsh. I wonder if I should have given him another chance or handled it with more patience. I worry about what will happen if he really does lose his apartment. And sometimes when my mom sighs into the phone and says, "He's your only brother, don't you want to keep the family together?" I feel like the villain of the story. But then I remember that pit in my stomach when I saw those sneakers. The way my heart dropped when I realized he had lied to me, to my face. The way he laughed when I confronted him like my trust didn't mean a damn thing. And I think, if I let that slide, where does it end? At what point does helping a family become just enabling someone to keep hurting you? I keep going back and forth in my head. Some days I feel strong in my decision. Other days I feel like maybe I'm just cold and selfish. So here I am, laying it all out for internet strangers because I honestly don't know anymore. I love my brother. I don't want him to fail, but I also don't want to be used. And I can't shake the feeling that by cutting him off, I've maybe burned a bridge that I can't rebuild. Am I overreacting? Was I too harsh? Should I have handled it differently, or was drawing a hard boundary the only way to finally protect myself?